everybody, and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living here in beautiful San Clemente. We're so glad you're here with us this wonderful Sunday morning in July. And we'd like you to join us on our first sing-along song called When I Listen, written by the man right here, Mr. Rick Dale. Here we go.
When I listen, I see clearly. When I listen, I know. When I listen, I find perfect peace. When I listen to the voice of Spirit in me.
We need the words up there.
When I listen, I see clearly. When I listen, I know. When I listen, I find perfect peace. When I listen to the voice of Spirit in me.
Key change.
When I listen, I see clearly. When I listen, I know. When I listen, I find perfect peace. When I listen to the voice of Spirit in me.
One more key change.
When I listen, I see clearly. When I listen, I know. When I listen, I find perfect peace. When I listen to the voice of Spirit in me. When I listen to the voice of Spirit in me. When I listen to the voice of Spirit in me.
All right. So I'd like to introduce our musicians to you this morning. We have Ed Cusby on guitar, Mr. Married Bill Dixon on bass, David Page on drums. Our song leaders, we have a wonderful quartet, Kimberly Woldridge, Wade Woldridge, Karen Ellen, and Rick Dale. Our soloist is the fabulous Miss Gina Walker. And we're going to have a special guest presentation at Offertory featuring the Holy Sisters of Perpetual Positivity. So stand by for that. All right, meanwhile, y'all need to stand on up, stretch your legs, and join us for another song called I Can See Clearly Now, reggae style.
Clearly now the rain is gone. And I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Pull it down a little bit.
It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
My reggae got caffeinated.
I think I can make it now. The pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue skies.
Get ready because we're going to sing another chorus. Here we go.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, 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 sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
One more time.
It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Yes, there is.
Good morning. It is amazing and a delight to see so many people here today. I was out early this morning on the highways and nobody was around, and I went to the gym and the gym was almost empty, and I hadn't realized it's because you were all coming to here today. So if you haven't been here before, we are a transcendent spiritual center, and you're welcome here. What that means is that we teach spiritual principles, and that when you learn to apply these principles to your life, you can actually live the life of your dreams, which means if some things are going really, really well, they can go a lot better. And if things aren't going quite the way you want, well, why would you settle for that? You could just make that shift. So we're going to start with our candle lighting ceremony, the Flames of Faith. Lighting the flames of faith, a call to service. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings, come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We light the candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of compliance with the will of God as the highest calling. We light the candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And as practitioner Kim Province lights the last candle, let it represent the path that brought you here this morning. So we begin as we begin everything around here with an affirmative prayer. So I invite you to go inward with me. And as I speak my word in the first person, I'm speaking for everyone. And as I go inward, it's much easier for me to refresh my mind and spirit with recognizing the truth. And the truth is that behind it all, there's only one. There's one life, one infinite, creative, loving being that is present everywhere. It is present in every space, in every person. It is the creator and the animator of everyone that is, that was, and that ever will be. And the nature of this one is infinite love. It is wholeness. It is complete. It is all intelligence and wisdom. It is unopposed and unopposable, so it is in a constant state of undisturbable peace. And it is constant creativity, and it is infinite, inexhaustible power, and infinite capacity for beauty, for appreciation, for gratitude, and for health and wholeness. And I know that each of us is not merely a creation of that one, but each of us is a direct expression, a direct extension of infinite love, of infinite joy, of infinite power and creativity. And as I am, as everyone is, blessed to be a self-conscious expression of this one, I know that I am able to direct this infinite energy, this infinite creativity, this infinite power through my thoughts and my words, because spirit always responds to itself. So by responding to me, it is responding to itself. So from this consciousness, I claim that each person here is finding whatever it is they're seeking here, that each person is experiencing more connection with Source, more feelings of power and appreciation and satisfaction in their lives, that each person is hearing those revelations of truth that allow us to remove any barriers that have ever kept us from living the life of our dreams and accepting that reality. And I claim that whatever healing needs to take place in any person, anywhere, for any reason for this good to be accepted, that this healing is occurring right here, right now, and it is palpable. And so I give thanks for this good, knowing that my role is not to create anything, but to direct and to accept. So I accept it, I give thanks for it as I would any gift, and I release it into these perfect laws, knowing that they act with absolute precision and can always be counted on. So with expectancy of good, I simply let it be, and together we say, and so it is. And now, practitioner Hans Smith with the affirmation of the day.
Good morning. I'm going to say the affirmation, then it will appear on the wall, and we'll say it together with feeling. We communicate openly with each other in an atmosphere of cooperation and inclusion. And so it is. The feeling. We communicate openly with each other in an atmosphere and inclusion. And so it is.
Thank you, Hans. And please welcome Gino Walker.
Good morning. Yes, this is me underneath all this hair. Let's just get it out of the way, okay? Everybody's like, oh my God. It grew overnight. Chia pet. It works. Hip-hop clothes. That doesn't mean that I am selling, no. Oh, please forgive me for having straight hair. That doesn't mean that my bloodline in the air. I might date another race or color. That doesn't mean I don't like my strong black brothers. Oh, I must it be this way. Before you can read me, you gotta learn how to see me. I said, free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind. and all my credit is bad. I like the way you don't waste my time because you really think the price was too high. You can move me, I won't stand. I want to tell you everything in my head. You can't change the mind. You can't change my color. I want you to know that I am your sister. Ooh. Why, oh, why must it be this way? Before you can read me, you gotta learn how to see me. I said, bring your mind, and the rest will follow. Come on. Be colorblind, or don't be so shallow. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Drop solo. Everybody say free. Say free. 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 Your mind. Your mind. Your mind. Your mind. Free your mind. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Free your mind, and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Free your mind. Woo.
Gino Walker.
Woo.
Thank you, Gino, for waking us up.
Yes,
ma'am. And please welcome Reverend Heather Dawn Clark.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, what a great song. I'll get to the lyrics in a bit, but I know the energy is knocking over guitars and everything. Whew. We're going to start actually with a prayer wall. And so if the practitioners will start coming forward, I will explain what we're going to be doing here and how long we're going to be doing it. So the whole idea of this is for people to take advantage of an affirmative prayer by one of the practitioners or ministers that are standing at the front. Leave a spot for me, please. There's good. And this is our gift to you. So we're not going to be praying for each other. We're going to be praying for you. And so just come up and whoever's available, go to that person. If you don't want a prayer, your job is to feel the energy of love and grace. Feel the energy that prayer creates just because it is prayer. At the end of our time, we're going to take 3.5 minutes for this. So Mary, it's a different time. And at the end of 3.5 minutes, we're going to hear a bell. We're to finish up our prayers within 30 seconds of that bell. In fact, let's make it 10 seconds of that bell so that it's so like you have time to say, and so it is. Right? Got it, everybody? Okay. So the prayer wall is now open. Okay. Okay. I need to be on mute, please. Okay. Allow that grace to fill everyone in here. For whether you came for a prayer or not, you were blessed by the prayers, because that's how it works. So this morning, Gino set me up so beautifully for my talk title that's published, From Racism to Gracism. I didn't like it. I didn't like the title. So I've just changed it to Grace, because I want to talk about grace and how important it is and how important all of us. So I'll just say a little bit from Racism to Gracism. It comes from a book by that same name, by a man by the name of David Anderson, who's a Bible-based Christian minister who's grown a huge church in the East. And he's grown this church because he's adapted to both blacks and whites. He has a service that's an hour and a half long, which satisfies the African Americans, and he has enough information that satisfies the white people that want to get out of there exactly on time, 1 hour, no more. So he satisfies people by combining the cultures. But I don't think that racism, I don't think the color of our skin is something that we need to be so concerned about. In fact, what I think we really need to be concerned about is what's within us, the presence of God within us, which is without color. The blog that I wrote this last week was based on putting people in boxes. And they actually did an experiment. A filmmaker did this experiment, and he had 40 strangers come, and they were grouped. I might have to. Okay. It's more better now, unless he's actually turned me off. Okay. He actually got these strangers together, and he first of all taped off a section of the room, there, that so everyone was first of all put in a section that was their color skin. And they didn't know that was going to happen. And interviewed afterwards, they said it felt really funny. It felt peculiar to be grouped that way. But immediately they continued the experiment. They read a series of questions, and if you related to the question, then you left your space and went to the front of the room and had a picture taken with the rest of your group. And the questions were things like, were you ever lonely? Or are you lonely right now? As a child, were you overprotected? Were you ever teased because of your appearance? And everybody, people changed places. One of the greatest questions was, are you in love right now? And most of the people went forward and had their pictures taken. What a great question that was. Are you in love right now? But the one question that every single one went forward with was, do you believe would be stronger united than opposed? All of them went forward. Yes, stronger when we're unified, stronger when we see our oneness, stronger when we're coming from a place of unity and inclusiveness. And that isn't to dismiss the things that make us so special, but it is to recognize that we're more than the obvious differences between us, and we're more alike than we are different. I personally would love to have Gino's talent. I'd love to be able to sing like her. I'd love to have Eddie Watkins Jr.'s talent. He was here on Friday night. And so, at one point on Friday night, he was telling a little bit of his story, and he said, people tell me I sound like certain singers. He said, so what do you think I have in common with Diana Ross? And none of us had an answer except maybe someone said, maybe it's your hair. Well, Eddie's bald and she had hair, like big hair. So that was a pretty funny. And then someone else said, maybe it's your smile, because what great smiles. So grace. Grace traditionally is thought of as being that quality that is unmerited. But in other words, it goes to people even though they don't deserve it. Now, Ernest Holmes does not say that at all, because that would not be in alignment with our philosophy. I mean, it does go to everyone, and you don't have to earn it, because it's the natural, normal quality. It's who you are. It's what you are. It's God in you is grace. God in you as the law of mind is grace. So when you're living in alignment with the truth of your being, you're naturally filled with grace, which means that your life works, means that you're happier, healthier, more, whatever it is. So Reverend Bruce was saying in his opening remarks, he said, if you want more of something, then prayer helps you have that more. Or if you want less of something, prayer helps you have that less. And if you have a great life already, but would like that even greater, turn to prayer. And what prayer does, it puts us in alignment with the truth of our being, so that we are one with the one with the power, one with life itself. So the other book, because we often have two books for our month. The other book is a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. And Malcolm Gladwell is one of my favorite authors. Those of you who are Jim Lockhart fans will want to make note of his name, because I found out about him through Jim. And he's a nonfiction writer, but he writes in such an interesting way. He takes topics that you wouldn't have really thought of before. The titles of his other books are Outliers and The Turning Point. And the one that this month is based on is called Blink. Blink. And blink is the ability that we have, and some people are aware of it and some are not, within 2 seconds to know the truth. Within 2 seconds to know the truth. We might call it what? Intuition. We might call it intuition. He doesn't call it intuition at all in the book, but in the conversation with Malcolm Gladwell at the back of the book, he says, some people might call it intuition, but I don't like that word. Okay, well then we're even, because I didn't like the word graceism. I love the word grace. So he didn't like the word intuition, but in fact, something that we can know, having very little factual data about, and yet know it at the depth of our being. That's what he's talking about. And of course, he's talking about in places where people aren't likely to be practicing intuition. So let me just get back to my notes for a second, because I want to quote, how many of you read our blogs? Hands up. Good, a few of you. Well, more of you will want to, because they're really interesting. And one of our blog writers is Julie Isola. Hand up, Julie, or stand up, hey. And she wrote this in her, it was her blog, not last week, the week before. She said, recently I visited the Museum of Man in San Diego. I spent most of my time in an exhibit called Race, Are We So Different? It was fascinating and obliterated many of my learned beliefs about race. The exhibit used science like biology and archaeology to prove false many of society's long-held assumptions about race. One of the most interesting things I learned was about classification. before the British started to travel and conquer the world, oh, back to the Brits again, there was no such thing as race. Interesting. People were people, regardless of skin color or cultural differences. It wasn't until the British applied their classification system to the people they encountered that race and racism were born. No other culture up until that point thought to put people in boxes based on traits and assumptions. That was such an aha moment for me. And right there, I made a conscious choice to release people from classification. And then she goes on to say that this book, she showed a clip. So if you go back to her blog, you could look at Dr. David Anderson, the minister that I was speaking about earlier. So I want to go back to grace for a moment. Ernest Holmes says, his definition of grace is this: grace is the givingness of spirit to its creation and is not a special law, but a specialized one. In other words, grace is, but we need to recognize it. It is not something God imposed upon us, but is the logical result of the correct relationship in the Spirit. We are saved by grace to the extent that we believe in, accept, and seek to embody the law of good. For the law of good is ever a law of liberty and never one of limitation. Limitation is not a thing, but an entity, not a belief. Freedom is a divine reality. So on the, did everyone have a beautiful 4th of July? Yeah, me too. Chris and I went to a party in Dana Point at the golf course, and our fireworks were spectacular because they were just right there. It was like, oh, a private fireworks show, and it was long as well. And the hostess and I and her teenage children were having a conversation, and I happened to mention, she was talking about how kids today, in order to get into colleges, where this youngster wants to be a doctor and has wanted to be a surgeon since she was 4 years old. It has never diminished. It's still a passion for her. She's now going into high school, into her freshman year in high school with this desire. And her mom was telling me how important marks are, but not just marks, activities that the colleges look at all of the things way back to junior high and all of high school when considering applications. And I was talking to her about Gladwell's book, and she said, oh, I read that. Because one of his books said, you know, one of the, this is called, in his book, The Outliers, that kids who are really, really good, like they're above and beyond the norms and are geniuses in their specialization, like this kid is in math and science. If they go into a school that is a math and science university, they're competing now with other geniuses. And instead of being the A++ student, they often end up in their freshman year of college of being a C or D student in their specialization because the competition is so stiff. It was an amazing thing for me to read. He highlights a person in each of his stories, and he said, this one person who had been so interested in maths and sciences since she was a child, ended up switching her major in her second year of university and went into the arts because there was too much competition. Now, what a shame that is, because obviously her soul was longing to express in this way the grace in her. But of course, you know, so if she'd gone to, and her mom, the mom that I was talking to said, you know, she'd be better off going to a junior college for her first couple of years because she could then get top marks than to go to an Ivy League school. There are always solutions, but I thought how interesting that you might have to diminish your ability. You have to put a bushel over that light. No. Anyway, diminish that light so it isn't really clearly seen so that you can let that light shine even brighter later on. Now, I know that that's not the truth any more than the British classifying people was the truth, any more than the horrors of racism have been the truth. None of that's the truth. The truth is that each one of us is imbued with all of the qualities and all of the abilities that will make us be uniquely us. And let our lights shine, shine. In Gladwell's book, Blink, he tells about, begins with the story of the Getty Museum having a statue become known to them. The statue was supposed to be made in 250 BC. And it was tested for authenticity for 14 months. 14 months. Every kind of test you can imagine, including a test of the marble so that it was authentically from that place in Italy where these statues were from. 7 foot tall of a young boy. It's a Kouros? Yeah, Kouros. Anyway, Getty paid almost $10 million for this thing because they authenticated it. All of the paperwork looked like it was really great. And then some experts started coming in. And one of the first experts said, I hope you haven't paid for this. The first thing she said. And another expert said, oh, it looks so fresh. A very interesting word for something that's supposed to have been buried for over 2,000 years. It looks fresh. But it was a word that just popped out. And both of those people couldn't say exactly why. It was a feeling. Sound like intuition to you? Me too. It was a knowingness in the first 2 seconds that there was something amiss. But there's also, in that first 2 seconds, the knowingness that something is true. The knowingness that grace is. We had a very small crowd for Eddie, and I'm so disappointed for him, although he wasn't. He's a fantastic guy. And I enjoyed it so much because what I saw was evidence of a man who lives by grace. A beautiful, beautiful human being, talented, like you cannot believe. He told us some of his story that, like Dave Friedman, he sat down at the piano when he was a child and just played. And so he played piano right up to age 13. And then he thought, I think I'd like to take up the bass guitar. Now listen to this. By 17, he was playing for bands like the Supremes. So from 13 to 17, 4 years, he went from learning this instrument to being such a top-notch, talented musician that he was sought after by the very best singers in the world at that time, the best groups in the world. And then he told his story of how all of that money and all of that success also put in his path drugs and alcohol. And he quipped about it. He said, my last cocktail was 22 years ago. And you could tell. You could tell because he said, grace healed me. I was healed by grace. He went to the Las Vegas Center. For years, he was their music director. And He said he went to Las Vegas to get a job, and by the time he got to Las Vegas, the job was gone. But probably that was the very best thing possible, because it forced him to live by grace, to allow the Spirit within him to provide for him. One of his songs is called All My Needs Are Met. All my needs are met. All my needs are met. And it's that whole idea that right here, right now, where all my needs are met, because all my nets are meet. He joked about it too, but what if we came to our lives that way? No matter what's happening, all my needs are met. I have oxygen to breathe. I have food to eat. I have always the ability to smile, to connect, to care. All my needs are met. And what did it for him was he saw God is everywhere present. Now, none of you have heard that before, right? God is everywhere present. There isn't a spot you can look and you don't see God. You don't see the presence of God, the evidence of God's being, the evidence of God's grace, the evidence of this mighty moving power that is in, through, and as each one of us. Reverend Genevieve was sitting right beside us on Friday night, and we said, well, Genevieve, you could buy one of his CDs or the flash drive. And she said, no, I can't use my computer, and I don't know how to play my CD player. I want the lyrics. So I thought, today I would just print out some lyrics. None. There are no lyrics anywhere. It might be on purpose, I guess, maybe musicians that, yeah, which was really, and sometimes it's time, neither he nor Michael got, because Michael has some great songs too that I'd love to quote. Neither one of them had any of their lyrics available, but you could download songs, and he had wonderful CDs with him. So one of the songs that I recall, and Lee and I were talking this morning, it'd be a good one for us to sing sometime, Reverend Karen, is These Doors Are Open to You. And part of the lyric is, black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist, or Jew, these doors are open to you. Right? Black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist, or Jew, or Hindu, or, we do the whole flames of faith. Transgender, bisexual, it doesn't matter. And oh, by the way, just in case you didn't know, we have a new group starting. This started last month. Kathy Story and Tony Sparks are leading a gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual questioning group on Friday nights at 6:30. Friday night, one Friday a month, and it's the second Friday, so it's coming up this coming Friday. So I wanted you to put that in your calendar if you've got someone that would appeal to, or maybe it appeals to you. We're a place where we're welcoming of all. And even though I look out and see so many people that look like me but younger, we're very happy to have all people, all sizes, all political points of view, and even Canadians. And, yeah, right after a thorough vetting. They're teasing me. Okay, so the thing is that right where we are, we're equipped. Right where we are, we have as much grace as we need in order for us to move forward with confidence. What stops that grace from appearing? You already know the answer. Judgment, blame, criticism, complaint. Those things stop the flow of this grace. Now, it's still there, but you're not aware of it. Fear, it's a huge issue. We cannot let that God of love flow through us if we're not in the same vibration as that love. same vibration, the same awareness of God's presence and God's gifts. Oh. Is there someone you need to forgive? Several years ago, we haven't had him for a while, we used to have Azim Kamisa come and talk to us. And Azim Kamisa has the most radical forgiveness story you could ever imagine. His 20-year-old son was murdered by a 13-year-old, part of a gang in San Diego. And he did the work to forgive that child for killing his child. He did the hard work. He did it so he could be free and so that he could be fully at one. I was reading about Amazing Grace. You would not believe what judgmental statements people make in the comments of Amazing Grace. It's like, don't you get anything? But anyway, which was pretty judgmental of me. Well, yeah, I hate those judgmental people, right? So anyway, most of you know the story of Amazing Grace, but just briefly, it is that in the man who wrote Amazing Grace was born in 1725. He died in 1807. He, as a child, his mother was quite religious. She was a Puritan. So in England at the time, that was not the majority of people. She was like 1% of the population were Puritans. I think now they're saying, "Oh, come to America." Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, she died when he was 7, and then he was raised by his seafaring father, who was completely different, was not religious, was a pretty typical sailor, rough and ready kind of guy. In his teens, he was conscripted into the British Navy, which would not have been a pleasant thing. He deserted, and he was found, and he was lashed. He was given, he was punished severely for deserting the Navy. So then he became a sailor, and he became a sailor on slave ships. He actually became a captain of a slave ship. And evidently he had very wild ways. He was known for his drinking and his carousing and his horrible treatment of everybody. And he had a spiritual experience. Now, many of us in this room have had spiritual experiences. I know we have. Yep, see? Yep. Spiritual experiences where you cannot deny the reality of God within or Christ within, whatever you want. There's something invisible that is responding to you. And he had that experience on one of these ships. And the experience was the ship was filling up with water, and it was in a very stormy sea. And one of these barrels or whatever plugged the hole. He prayed and they plugged the hole so no more water was coming in, and they were saved. This ship was saved. So, but did he stop his evil ways? No, he did not. He continued doing what he was doing. And he actually became an Anglican minister. Anglican is like the Church of God, so it's the Protestant version of the Catholic Church in England. And he became an Anglican minister, and he was still a slaver. He hadn't connected that this might not be in alignment with the truth. But then something happened, and eventually he did condemn. And towards his death, he started saying that he was a blasphemous slaver. What he wrote the lyric. he wrote Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace is one of those songs that came back into style about the 1850s and is known everywhere around the world. In every denomination, it's sung as this thing that across cultures, across denominations, it is the one thing that people say, yes, that is what grace is. And the first line is, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. And my favorite verse is, when we've been here, I always say here, but it's actually there. When we've been there 10,000 years, we'll have no less grace. Thank you. Bright shining as the sun. They'll have less days to God's praise than when we first begun. Okay, let's do that one again. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, there'll no less days to sing God's praise as when we first begun. Amazing grace, it is for all of us, and so it is. We'll go right into it. Because we prayed already, we're going to go right into our music from yesterday.
Welcome back, Gino Walker.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. Thank you, Reverend Heather. Thank you. War is holy and sex is obscene. We've got it twisted in this lucid dream, baptized in boundaries, schooled in sin, divided by difference, sexuality and skin. Oh, so we can hate each other and fear each other. We can build these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself locked in, yeah, we can hate each other and fear each other. We can build these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself locked in, locked in. Oh, maybe we should love somebody. Oh, maybe we should care a little more. So maybe we should love somebody instead of polishing the bombs of holy war. What if love was holy and sex was obscene? It wasn't twisted. What a wonderful dream. Living in love, it ain't so far. Forgiveness is the only real revenge. Oh, so we could heal each other and feel each other. We could break these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself open, you're open. Yeah, we could heal each other and feel each other. We could break these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself open, you're open. Oh, maybe we should love somebody. Oh, maybe we should care a little more. So maybe we should love somebody instead of polishing the bombs of holy war. What if love was holy and hate was obscene? We should give life to this beautiful dream. 'Cause peace and love, it ain't so far if we nourish our wounds before we scar. Nourish our wounds before we scar. Nourish our wounds before we scar. Nourish, nourish, nourish one another. Nourish each and every one another. Nourish, 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 nourish each and one another.
Gina Walker.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina.
Wow, Gino, that was amazing. Just a beautiful song. Yeah. Okay, if the stewards would please come forward, it's time for us to share our gifts, our tithes, our offerings. Okay. Please repeat after me. Divine love in me.
Divine love in me
Blesses and multiplies.
blesses and multiplies
All that I have.
all that I have,
All that I give.
all that I give.
I give with love.
I give with love,
And I love to give.
and I love to
And
give.
so it is.
So it is.
And we have now our lovely special presentation by, as I said earlier, the Holy Sisters of Perpetual Positivity. Watch out, Hans, you might get run over. Don't worry, you're still in the right place, folks. Aren't they beautiful?
Nothing you can say can tear me away from my God. Nothing you can do, 'cause I'm stuck like glue to my God. I'm sticking to my God like a stamp to a letter. Like birds of a feather, we stick together. Oh, telling you from the start, I can't be torn apart from my God. Nothing you could do could make me untrue to my God. My God. Nothing you could buy could make me tell a lie to my God. My God. I gave my God my word of honor to be faithful.
and I'm gonna
You best be believing I won't be deceiving my God. As a matter of opinion, I think he's tops. My opinion is he's the cream of the crop. As a matter of taste, to be exact, God's my ideal. As a matter of fact, no muscle-bound man could take my hand from my God. No handsome face could ever take the place of my God.
We might not be movie stars when it comes to being happy.
We are. There's not a man today who could take me away from my God.
Go for it, sisters. Here we are.
As a matter of opinion, I think he's tops. My opinion is he's the cream of the crop. As a matter of taste, to be exact, God's my ideal. As a matter of fact, no muscle-bound man could take my hand from my God. No handsome face could ever take the place of my God.
Though we may not be movie stars when it comes to being happy,
We are. There's not a man today who could take me away from my God. There's not a man today who could take me away from my God. There's not a man today who could take me away from my God. My God.
Woo! The Holy Sisters of Perpetual Positivity. I just have to do this because we just have to do this. So our Mother Superior, this is one of those nunneries where everybody is Sister Mary, and then so it's a whole bunch of Sister Marys. So Sister Mary Darylyn was our Mother Superior. Sister Mary Rita, Sister Mary Jamie, Sister Mary Chelsea, Sister Mary Karen Meyer, Sister Mary Kimberly, Sister Mary Karen Allen, Sister Mary Barbara, and here's my favorite, Sister Mary Mary. The best. And Darylyn doesn't know this, but come here, my darling Darylyn. This is Darylyn's swan song. With us. She's moving to Santa Barbara. And she has been such a huge part of this community and this music program and this choir and all the shows and everything. And we are going to miss you desperately. So we have some things for you here from all of our choir. Yes. We have a basket of goodies and some flowers.
I'm entering a convent in Santa Barbara.
And we just want you to know from all of us here and Reverend Heather and Judy and our community that we love you so much and are so, so grateful for all your years of loving service in so many ways. So, we love you, Darylyn. Oh, yes, we do. We love you, Darylyn, and we'll be true. When you're not near us, we're blue. Oh, Darylyn, we'll miss you. And now we can get the children in here. Here we go. Where am I?